I'm going to share the screen now. And we're going to start from the beginning because I keep talking about this, but you didn't actually see it. So sorry about that. Let's see. Localhost and simulation. Okay. So I think you can see the screen now. Okay. All right. So this is what I wanted to show you. Let's start from Web 2. And Web 2, like I said, is basically companies like Facebook or Twitter, Web 2 companies that basically take some of the budget of every advertiser. These circles that appear randomly are basically advertisers. Now, of course, you can play around with the parameters. We're not going to go with millions of advertisers. It's just a symbolic representation. You don't have to, you can increase this value, but let's say 1 to 10. This is symbolic value for how many. It's not in dollars or something. It can be from 1 to 100. It doesn't really matter. It's just a symbolic value so that we don't crowd the screen. And Facebook is the only one that gains. And so we start with this, and you're going to see, like I said, the red circles are the 4 Web2 companies that are eating up the budget of every new advertiser that you can see appearing randomly in Facebook, in Twitter, any traditional Web2 advertising, right? So if you consider this evolution uh, over time, you will see that these web companies just keep taking and taking and taking from everyone using their service, and the regular user has to pay the most because he is the product being sold. His data, his content, his attention, his money that um, is channeled through these ads, right, to these advertisers. He's the one that actually has all the value. So the value in the network is the regular user, all the users. It's not the interface, the company that created the interface, right? And so again, in the year 2000, when social media was just beginning, I can understand how it was. Uh, it made sense, I guess, that you need to research and develop this new technology, new platform. You need infrastructure, data centers. You need people working on it. But after a few years, after everything was matured enough and developed and optimized, then they kept taking profits and profits and profits, and they never returned anything to the community, to the users. And this is why um, hierarchy based, traditional profit based and um, capitalist business models are not going to last in the future, because there's a good book on this. Actually, it's called Surveillance Capitalism, or The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, and you can read it, and it goes in depth into this. But I'm not going to go into that. I mean, you can understand basically from this simulation what these 4 platforms, let's say the 4 dominant social media platforms, Web2 platforms, are doing with their users. They're just eating up the value that they have, providing very little in return. I mean, the conversion rate is almost nothing today. It's very expensive to advertise on Facebook compared to TikTok or other platforms that are currently emerging, right? So I'm going to go straight to Web3 again because you didn't see it. Um, and so let's see. I think it's okay. I'm just going to press simulate. Now, Web3 is very different because every user can select any user in the network and have a transaction of either sharing value or gaining value from that targeted user. So you can see a line, which is the selection. It's very fast because we need to simulate this over time, right? And they keep clustering together because every time they choose a target, another user, basically it moves a little closer to that user, because of course when you engage with the content of user, or you you support a user, you follow that user, you go a little closer, right? So everyone gets packed and more connected to everyone else. And so over time, you'll see it creates basically this unified sphere, which was supposed to be the internet. As you know, the internet has that web sphere, wireframe sphere icon, which is the symbolic representation of the web or the internet. And it never turned out to be like that, right? It turned out to be just a few companies, Google, Facebook, dominating everything and everyone. And they were taking everything, all the profit, all the money from everyone. And that is not sustainable, right? So what is sustainable is in this new spirit, in this new trend of decentralization, where we divide the costs of infrastructure and everything with thousands and thousands of participants, millions, tens of millions, or eventually billions. So people are trying to figure out new recipes like Steppen app, which is a move to earn concept. There are a lot of games today that use blockchain, which are in the category called play to earn. And basically, all these companies, these startups in Web3, blockchain, AI, are trying to use these new technologies to serve the people. It's not just millennials or Gen Z, everyone, but unfortunately for now, Gen Z or younger are, let's say, the biggest audience for blockchain, especially Web3 and maybe some AI, because they basically were born with between this period when blockchain started. And of course it has this negative image because there's so many scammers exploiting blockchain technology, tricking and lying to investors, or not necessarily. Most of the projects were done, as a joke, or as a test. And some of them, even if they didn't have the intention of scamming people, although many do, they didn't, because it's a pioneering domain. They didn't know exactly how to create a project that is sustainable. So they didn't even put like 1 hour into tokenomics, like what happens long term with the exchange of value with these tokens that we're issuing, what happens to them long term, right? And this is where I wanted to really, really ask some questions, and not just ask some questions around because there was no actual useful information, because nobody knows what they're doing today. It's just the beginning. We're still in the pioneering time or period of Web3 or blockchain. It's not widely adopted, right? I mean, most people have heard of Bitcoin maybe, but not much about any other coin or blockchain, right? And so even AI, like it's a new thing. It was just released last year, so not a lot of people know about it, the potential of these technologies. And so as a developer, it's my job to communicate this with people and explain basically what is going on, what are the trends here, where are we heading with this. And as you can see in this network, most users, after a period of time, it creates this pattern of unified sphere that stabilizes, and there's room for growth. Many users have the possibility to grow, to get bigger, to get more value from the network. But overall, it's a uniform distribution of value, and that's the goal here. The goal is to tackle the wealth gap with this type of technology, with a good sustainable tokenomics model in a very gamified and advanced social network, right? And this is what we're trying to do with freehumans.world. Now, this is basically, it's not it we cannot foresee everything that will happen, but it's a good idea of how we can start thinking about an algorithm for distributing value with the token that we're using. The token is called gratitude token, with the ticker grat. And basically it's used in this it's going to be used in this network for users to exchange value. And the service says everything that will be done on social media today will be basically connected somehow with this token, and the transactions are real transactions on a blockchain, instant transactions, as opposed to any other project that runs on Ethereum or Polygon or other blockchains that have gas fees The blockchain that we are using doesn't have gas fees, zero fees for the end user. It's very fast, 4.5K transactions per second with a finality of 1 second or less. This is very important because many developers, many blockchain companies don't talk about this. Ethereum, for example, which is the most popular, does not have even like 100 transactions per second on average, because it takes 20 to 30 seconds for the fastest transaction. Let's say the block time is 12 seconds or 20 seconds, something like that. For this blockchain, the block time is zero point 0.5 seconds. So every transaction is like that. It's 1 second finality, and it's a very advanced blockchain with a username instead of that complicated string of characters that nobody can manage, share, just copy paste. It's a big issue to manage those addresses, right? In this blockchain, we use something like Lucian, right? We use something like these usernames, which are like unique usernames, like in Telegram or Evolute. It's the same thing. Unique global username, right? So it's yours forever and it's unique instead of that complicated string of characters. So I think you understand what I'm trying to do with these tools. You can play around. I played for hours and hours with the parameters to try and create a stable distribution of value in a network of users, because that's the point. We want value, we want the wealth gap to be reduced. Over 10 years ago, it was 1% of humanity owned 99% of all the value created by humans. Today, more than 10 years, more than a decade later, it's 1% of humanity owns 50%. So there's a vertical wealth transfer that is going on with or without my contribution. I'm trying to do something in this space as well with this network, and it's a very complex and difficult project. And I'm trying to communicate this with people to be. Everything is open source, everything is transparent. This is why I'm doing these live streams, so that everyone can see the process behind the just the website or whatever, the presentations, or so how it's actually done, right? As a developer, you have to communicate what you're doing. I really believe in open source and transparency, as opposed to other companies which has everything closed source, right? And I don't want to give names, but I don't believe traditional closed source or private patents is something that is good for progress, for our species, for humanity, for this planet. I think if we want to move forward and find solutions to the difficult problems, the real problems that we face today, we have to get together and build open source application, decentralized applications. This is Web3. This is the opportunity to decentralize a lot of business models and solve a lot of problems, right? Because we divide the cost of everything into a lot of small pieces, and it's very easy to manage like that. Instead of relying on a data center to host this type of application, right? It's going to be available on iOS, on Android. And we can basically eventually, not for the test net, but for the main net, eventually the goal is to be a true DApp, where a true DApp, 100% decentralized, is software that runs on many, many computers across the planet, not just on one or a couple of servers in a data center, right? That's a centralized system. Web2 is classical Web2 system, and everything is centralized and vulnerable to attacks and to a lot of other things, right? So all right, so I think now that we have gone through the simulation, and you saw, and in the beginning, I was talking to a screen that was very cringe. uh, I was talking basically without sharing the screen, and sorry about that. But I think maybe for the video, I'm going to cut that part out. And so we start with the simulation like it should be. All right, so now I'm going to try to finish the tasks that I started. Um Even before the first live stream, I had a lot of tasks, but I chose just a few of them, a small amount of like 4 tasks. One of them was to create. So I created these functions here just to generate 10 usernames from exotic animal names that This list was generated by ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence from OpenAI, which is not that open, right? It's closed now. It's everything is closed, even though they started off as an open source initiative, and this is why the founders agreed in the founding document. One of the founders was Elon Musk. He invested money into OpenAI to make it an open source technology so that everyone can benefit. But when they saw the potential, they closed everything. Sorry, and they accepted a lot of support from the private sector, I guess, traditional VCs that only see dollar signs in their eyes, right? I guess this is how it is. It's been going on for 200 years, ever since Nikola Tesla. And I continued this with putting everything into a request, which is at this URL. So whenever I send a bunch of users from, let's say, Postman, I have a request here with these users, right, in an object, in an array. Basically, the users are created, and I get this message, and the database is populated, like so. Okay, so let's slow down a little bit because I got really excited and because of that mishap, let's say, of not sharing the screen. Rookie mistake. Um, so let's see. So the next step would be update UI to show correct username and name on profile page. Yeah, so this is where I got left off. So what I'm doing here with check fault, it's this request. I'm checking basically this table called user fault, like this user fault. This is the table. No, this is not the table. Actually, let's select from user fault. So there's no entry here. There's no user that has penalty, prison, or ban. This is why when I try to select the user and the user comes here, actually I want to check these. And I'm using Copilot. By the way, it's an artificial intelligence Copilot, as the name suggests. Console log, yeah, exactly. So you see, it knows exactly. Sometimes it's very accurate, and it knows what it should put here, right? So this is what I wanted. I wanted a console log with all those three variables. And now, if I run the app again and I send the request, could not send. Oh, it's not started yet. I think the first time it takes a while. Yeah, okay. Okay, nothing. And yes, the username, the user ID, and the token, the session token. So it's getting the right thing. So there's no user with this, but actually, the message should be more clear. So if we don't actually find the user, right, with the username, this one, we should send another error. But let's think about it a little bit. Hmm. I don't want to hurry with this because there's no rush. This is the advantage of working in an open source project, is that you're not chased by any deadlines, or like if you have a job, you always feel some sort of pressure that you have to do everything fast and deliver. But if you're working on an open source project, there's nothing like that. I mean, you organize yourself, you manage your own schedule, so it's a good thing, right? I can read some messages here because I just want to make sure that I don't have any important messages. So just 1 second, guys. And I want to see if there's any messages. All right, so there's no messages in the chat. Uh, okay. And I'm using Restream, the free version, which is sucks a little bit because it's only 720p. And I actually don't see in the browser anything about the viewers. I don't see how many. Oh, okay. I think I do. All right, let's see. I wonder how it looks from a phone. I never. This is my third live stream ever, or maybe fourth in my lifetime. So I'm just learning how to do this. Okay, here it's working. Okay. All right, so let's get back to it. Just gonna pour myself some water. 1 second. All right. Wow, that was good. Sometimes you forget to drink water, and it's important to remain hydrated. So, update UI to show correct username and have name on profile page. So, basically, we go to the profile here. Okay. And I will mute the share screen. Okay. So this is the profile name. This is the username. And we have to update it with the user that is authenticated. Now, in order to do that, let's see. So this request that I created here, basically I have to do this as a middleware. So it has to be moved in a separate component, a separate file, and it has to be called imported in most places, not all requests, but it has to be a middleware, something like this, for example. Right? This is a rate limiter that I have here. So in this folder that I created, I have to create another TypeScript file, which is going to be that code over here with check user fault. Okay, let's do it. I'll create a new file here. It's gonna be called check. No, I'm just gonna call it fault ts. Okay, and we do have to import it here. Do we have the limiter here. Actually, no, this is not. Hmm. We're not calling it here, I guess. Transfer. But why? Okay, so we're using it where we're using it. So I guess here, for example, limiter, yeah. Fault TS. Check user faults. Um, I'm not sure what's the problem here, but I also have to import the database here. You know, I think we can keep this in the user though, because it is related to the user controller, right? So I was just thinking maybe we should keep it. All right, so let's delete these. And undo this. Okay. I'll leave this here. Okay. And yeah, we can leave it here. It has the database, it has everything set up, so it's gonna work. Hmm. Okay. So what's the next step here? Hmm. We have to create basically that functionality for this. Here actually. Yeah. Okay. I'm leaving some comments for austerity, but also for Copilot, so it has a better context of what we're doing here. Okay. And so when I feel tired or lazy or my brain is just not working, I think I try to see what I can get out of these Copilot. And in order to get more from it, I have to provide more intelligent prompts. So if your brain is not working, that's not going to help. Mm, okay, I think I have to increase the font size a little bit because the resolution, and so you guys can see it better. Okay, and me. So we're sending faults if they. Hmm. Let's put some faults into this table and see what happens. This is, I think, we have to test it, right? How do we test it? A create Test cases for this endpoint. Test cases. Wow, that's a lot of test cases. And I know there's some shortcut or something to get all of them at once, but I'm not seeing them. I don't know what it is. You guys know? Let me see the chat here. If there's anyone, I see there's a couple of you watching, so you can say hi in the chat if you want. Um, okay. Wow, it just keeps going. Yeah, I don't need all these. I just need, let's say, create. That's what I need. Okay. Um, add fault. But what are the values? Oh, it comes from here, from the body. Okay. But it's user fault, user ID. Where does the user ID come from? From the front end, I guess. Okay, I think this could work. Let's see. Let's stop this, run it again. Okay, it's connected. I'm gonna copy this, go to another request, body, raw, text, JSON. Okay, post. Copy the URL from here. Add fault. And we need something. Yeah. Okay. So we have everything here except penalty. I think penalty, prison, and ban. Yes. Prison. Say yes again, just to make sure that it adds everything correctly. Okay. Say true. I'm not sure if it's gonna work because it's a text. I have never tried this with CLADB. This is a new database that I'm using, so I'm not sure how it works. I'm just gonna test it like this. Of course. Let's see. Not a valid text value, of course. It's not gonna work. Maybe say like this. Okay, added successfully. Let's see. Yes, indeed. And it added this. But now that we can check Go back to the previous post. Okay, it didn't actually return anything, so that's not good. This console log worked, but let's see, clear. So it got to this point, selected everything. Oh, yeah, user fault. Maybe this is the problem. Again. Didn't do anything. False, zero, empty. But why? Let's console log this. Yes. Send. It's empty. So what it's actually looking for this, right? BFF. And what am I sending? No, what is in the database? BFF. So it should look for this ID, and if any of them are here, it should show, right? One second. Okay. So what are we doing here? Let's see. We are creating a query. Select everything from user fault where user ID equals this. There's no error. I guess we go inside here because we get this. It's empty. Maybe the user ID. I don't get it. Let's try to use artificial intelligence to explain this, to debug this code, because I don't understand what it's not working here. So let's see. Why is users returning an empty array? Um, what did it do exactly? It replaced the UUID with this. I don't think this will work, but try. I have no idea how CLDB works entirely. Yes, it was the problem. Yes, because now we're getting everything. So we have this to make sure that the results that come back is a match with this, right? And we have everything in here. If they didn't have something in one place, we can try. We can do something like truncate table user fault and go back to the request, and we're gonna send just the penalty this time. Send. Fault added successfully. Now we select everything here. And yes, we only have penalty. And if we check it, yes. Good. So this is actually very important because you do need to check these things on a social media network. For most requests, I mean, not for registration because that's when you create the user, it doesn't have any penalty, but maybe not for, I don't know, other actions, but for authentication, for um, posting, for basically, just accessing certain parts of the application or the functionality, it's required that you check these things because some naughty users will get some of these. Sorry. Um, okay, so we fixed this. Um, I'm gonna remove. I'm gonna truncate the table here so that it's empty. I don't need this at this point. I don't need this at this point. Or this. I can comment this actually. So now we are finished with check fault, add fault, right? But we need to update the UI. So we have 10 more minutes. I think we can do this. Let's see. Maybe Copilot will help. Hey, why are you showing me the same content? Let's say we do need a request, I guess, for hmm. So yeah, we need a request that is a general request for reading the user profile, right? Which should be available for both the user that created the account and for other people, but with different privacy settings and levels and a lot of other things. 1 second. Okay. That's weird. Why doesn't it work? I think it's because I stopped this or something. It wasn't stopped. Good. So now let's go back to the code. So obviously we have to do a request here, not here on the front end. And we're going to do it in profile, I guess. But yeah, I guess we need to do actually two of them. One request will be for the profile page and one for timeline, for example, right? Or when you click on a post, for example, I click comment here and it takes me to the post. And so this one has some extra information maybe. I think it's mostly the same as in timeline though. So in the main timeline where everyone's posts, you can see everyone from the people, from the users that are connected to and following, not just connected. So if you're not following, you're just connected, you cannot see their posts on in the newsfeed in the timeline. I call it the timeline. Um, and it's different, I know, from from Facebook, for example, because Facebook calls timeline your timeline, right? Your personal timeline. But if you call it just timeline and not your timeline, I think it's the timeline. It's the collective timeline, right? And it's much. It makes more sense to me that we have everyone's posts, the people that we are connected to. We see the timeline, right? Instead of calling it a news feed, which is it's not a newspaper, right? It's a timeline, right? It's timeline with all the posts of all the people that you are following. So click plus, send. Can play with this all day. Cancel, search. All these functionality, all these features will have to be created in the backend because currently it's just the front end, right? Here you can sort by videos or back to mixed, sort by images or back to mixed, sort by sound. And so here we just show the name, username, let's see, the title, and the avatar. Or there's this virality stat as well. We're gonna have, of course, these. It's gonna be separate. The comments, everything, right? The link, repin or pin. This is for curating, and this is for reporting. So we have these buttons right here under every post. And this is going to be used for some special functionality in the future. Okay, so I think we can stick to the profile right now and create it in profile. Let's create fetch request, fetch get request to get user profile info. Const get profile info. And it's going to be like this profile. Yeah, JSON, I guess, because we do have to send all the data. But the thing that I don't get here, if it's let's make it a post request, actually. Post. Let's see if it knows how to. Yes. But it doesn't know how to add it. So we need to add here the body, right? Let's see if it knows. Did it have it already and I didn't see it? I'm not sure. I'm very, very tired at this point. I think so. I tried to do these live streams at this hour because I saw that there's basically one of the reasons is that it's more quiet where I live here at this hour, but also because um, there's not a lot of people streaming at this hour. I know most people are using bots to pump up the views on their channel to get in the list, in the top ranking list for most views, right? I'm not using any bots, but I'm just trying to basically uh, go like this week for this week, and then we can. I will adjust the hour because I see there's not a lot of people at this hour, and because in Romania most people are sleeping at this hour, so and most of the people or friends that I have that could be watching this are sleeping and not watching it because it's a boring developer channel, right? So, all right, so let's see chat. All right, no messages, and so let's see. The body is JSON stringify. Yes, username, text content. No. Okay, I'm pulling it here, but for this, let's see. Yeah, we can get from local storage. So for local storage has um, we're gonna have to go here. So this, I think ID like this. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, and session. Yes, that's correct. It actually added this bearer thing, which is actually very important nowadays. Um, okay, this could work. So whenever I want to get profile info, I send the credential. Actually, this is when you're getting your own profile because you're sending that. But we also need to see the target user, and the target user, we have a couple of ways to do that. We can either get it, and it could be like this. I mean, profile, right? Something like escape username equals Lucian, right? This could be, we can take it from the URL, the target user, or we can take it from whenever we click or access, but you still have to revert to the URL all the time because if someone accesses a user from a link, it has to have the username in the URL, otherwise you don't know where to go, right? Um, and that's where it starts. Even though you might save it as a local storage, that's not going to work all the time, right? If you want to use a link. So We can do it like this, but if we do it like this, it's very simple to do it. We can do it directly from here, but this is a bit ugly, right? Like it's not like this, for example, right? This would be a much better way to do it. But if we want to do it like this, it's going to complicate things a little bit because this has to be basically, let's see, or like this straight up solution, right? So if it's like something like free humans dot world slash solution, right? Or username slash solution. What's the best option here, right? I don't know. This would be ideal, but this is basically like a route, a folder, where if you do this route, you have to send the content. You have to. So currently, I'm using basically the Express static server, but in the production environment, I like to separate the static files application from everything else, right? So if there's an attack, for example, on the usual port, 80 or 8080, it doesn't affect the rest of the services, right? Um, okay, so I think I'm going to prep this more, and we can do we can finish this tomorrow in tomorrow's live stream. Um, yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to think about it a little bit, right? All right, guys. See you tomorrow.